We were alone at the beach. And then he touched me like that. 2 years have slipped away since the world was irrevocably altered. What was meant to be a simple outing, a day at the beach with my son Cole, quickly spiraled into something far more complicated. Grant, my husband, was unable to join us. He simply didn't. Work had always been my sole focus, and solitude was a familiar companion in my life. Yet, that day carried an unsettling weight, as if the air itself was charged with unspoken possibilities. Not just in the past, but in this very moment as well. As the sun cast its golden rays upon us, we unfurled the towels, anticipation hanging thick in the air. The heat of that day was almost suffocating. As I reclined, savoring a fleeting moment of silence amidst the chaos of life, I turned to Cole, my voice tinged with vulnerability, and asked Cole to hand me the sunscreen. My back was already burning, and I was trying to avoid getting sunstroke. I never considered it. I have a child. My child. What could possibly compel me to do that? At first, it seemed as though he was merely lending a hand. It was then that I truly witnessed it. He helped dab sunscreen on my shoulders, awkwardly and quickly, like any teenager trying to help and get it over with. I let him go. What held me back from taking that step? You think you understand who you are. You are my family. Yet, there are moments that possess the power to shatter everything into pieces. It all unfolded at the beach that fateful day. Ever since that moment, I have felt a profound shift within me. 15 years had passed since I first said "I do" to Grant. Those who are familiar with our lives would have painted a picture of a perfect match, a charming home filled with laughter, beautiful children, and a seemingly unshakable routine. Only when you step inside do the issues reveal themselves. To truly understand the emptiness, one must endure it firsthand. For years, Grant's mind was consumed by his work, an obsession that overshadowed everything else. Weekends, late nights, and even holidays loom ahead, each moment heavy with anticipation. He did it for us, I would remind myself, clinging to that fragile hope. His relentless toil and unwavering commitment were destined to transform our family's fate and shape a brighter future. Yet, as time wore on, that line of thinking began to unravel, leaving confusion in its wake. What is the value of a house that stands empty, untouched by the warmth of human presence? He was blind to my presence now. He walked in, his gaze averted, as if I were a ghost haunting the room. He ceased to inquire about my well-being, my desires, and my needs. Our conversations were brief, touching on the weighty matters of bills, the daily grind of food, and the ever-present concerns of the kids. His heart ached for Cole and Sophie, Cole's precious little sister. He lingered like a specter, even in their presence. It exists, yet it feels hauntingly elusive. I would sit across from him at the table, my heart racing, questioning if he still recognized my presence. The memory of that morning lingers vividly in my mind. Grant burst through the door, leaving me in the kitchen, heart racing and confusion swirling in my mind. He pulled his suitcase from the corner, leaned down to kiss Sophie gently on the head, and cast a fleeting, intense glance in my direction. I deeply regret what has happened, Elena. I can't be there today. He claimed that an unexpected situation arose at work. I remained silent. I merely nodded, forcing down the tightness in my throat as I always managed to do. I convinced myself it was fine, but deep down, uncertainty gnawed at my insides. Cole and I could venture out alone. At just 17, Cole stood tall and slender, a figure marked by the uncertainty of youth. His father's brown eyes stared back at him, yet his face bore a gentler softness that hinted at unspoken stories and hidden depths. When I revealed that it would only be the two of us, he fell silent, a heavy weight hanging in the air between us. He merely shrugged, grabbed the bags, and trailed behind me to the car, an unsettling silence hanging in the air. He sat in the passenger seat, the music pulsing around him, his gaze fixed on the world outside, lost in thought like so many teens caught in their own reveries. A smile tugged at my lips as I observed him, a mix of emotions swirling within me. He transformed so rapidly that I found myself fearing I might blink and lose him forever. As I drove to the beach, thoughts of Grant consumed me, as they so frequently did. Memories of our shared moments flooded my mind, each one a vivid reminder of the bond we forged. Late-night escapades at the cinema, spontaneous strolls under the stars, and impromptu adventures that ignite the thrill of the moment. I lingered on the memory of his touch, the way his eyes would ignite with a spark of recognition whenever they fell upon me. Years had passed since I last experienced that feeling. A profound emptiness enveloped me. I was utterly drained from the suffocating silence of invisibility. As we arrived, Cole guided me to a secluded area by the water, where the weight of our belongings felt heavier amidst the stillness. As he struggled to open the umbrella, I meticulously spread out the towels, the air thick with unspoken tension. I felt an undeniable urge to speak with him, as if something crucial was at stake. Perhaps he was truly alone in that moment, the weight of solitude pressing down like a heavy shroud. Perhaps what I truly craved was a soul willing to hear my unspoken turmoil. Do you feel the allure of the great outdoors? I forced a smile into my voice as I spoke, masking the turmoil within. He swept his hair back with a swift motion, his nod carrying an unspoken weight. He replied, "Yeah, Mom, it's nice." But beneath his words, a storm of unspoken feelings brewed, hinting at a deeper struggle within. As I settled onto the towel, the sun's scorching rays enveloped my skin, igniting a fierce warmth that coursed through me. For a fleeting moment, I found myself doing nothing, desperately seeking to release the weight of the past few years, if only for a brief escape. In that moment, the thought of the sunscreen pierced through my mind. I rose from my seat and fixed my gaze on Cole, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavily in the air. "Could you assist me in placing this on my back?" I inquired. "I find myself unable to reach it." He paused, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face, before finally reaching for the bottle I offered. I reclined once more, my back pressed against the towel, and braced myself for what was to come. His first touch was cautious and gentle, as if he feared causing me pain. A wave of nostalgia washed over me, stirring a bittersweet smile as I recalled the tender moments when his small fingers clasped mine, guiding us safely across the street in his innocent youth. I urged him, "You can push a bit more." Yet my voice trembled softly. "It's going to be okay." As he applied the oil to my shoulders and back, a newfound confidence surged within him, each movement charged with an intensity that left the air thick with unspoken tension. The heat and rhythm of his hands drew me in, compelling me to shut my eyes against the world. I reminded myself this was just sunscreen, nothing more, nothing less. A teenager helping, clumsy but kind. It had been an eternity since I felt the warmth of another's touch. The weight of that thought pierced deeper than I ever intended to reveal. Then, he hesitated at my lower back, and I gently reached for the bottle myself, breaking the moment before it could become something else. I struggled to draw in a breath, my mouth opening in a desperate attempt to voice my thoughts, yet silence enveloped me. Despite the turmoil swirling within me, I chose to remain silent. I convinced myself that everything was fine, that he was merely lending a hand, and that my worries were nothing more than figments of my imagination. Deep down, I was painfully aware that I wasn't. After he set the towel aside, his hands lingered, suspended in the air, teetering on the brink of uncertainty. The weight of our shared uncertainty hung in the air, and I found myself powerless to intervene as he pressed on. Instead, I uttered words that haunted me. "Everything will be fine. Just pass me the bottle again, please." This statement lingered ominously, a palpable threat, and the moment it escaped my lips, I realized I was utterly alone in this revelation. Silence hung in the air as Cole pressed on, undeterred by the absence of a response. I squeezed my eyes shut, a shiver coursing through me as I reached for my towel, trying to break the tension with a soft joke about sunscreen always feeling cold. I feared he could sense the frantic rhythm of my heart, pounding wildly in my chest. My heart raced as I prepared to rise and confront him, the weight of my resolve heavy in the air. I truly didn't. I found myself powerless to do so. I stood there, paralyzed, doing nothing at all. I remain in the dark, grappling with the uncertainty of it all. Perhaps it was the overwhelming sensation of isolation that consumed me. Perhaps it was the desperate craving for acknowledgement that drove me, even if it was misguided, or maybe I had simply lost all sense of concern. On that fateful day at the beach, a fracture occurred deep within me, and nothing has felt right since. I truly appreciate your unwavering support through this journey. This is difficult to accept, and I truly value your willingness to listen. If this story resonates with you, or could touch someone you care about, I urge you to like and subscribe. Your support could make all the difference. It empowers me to share deeper narratives and envelopes me in a sense of connection, reminding me that I am not isolated in this journey. It's time to press forward. From that day forward, nothing felt the same. The intensity of Cole's gaze lingered long after, a haunting reminder of the events that unfolded and the turmoil within me, unchangeable, irrevocable. It was neither fleeting nor insignificant. It continued relentlessly. As I gazed into his eyes, an unsettling mystery gripped me. Something in his expression held me captive, drawing me in, making it impossible to turn away. When we returned home that night, everything was concealed, as if the events had never transpired. I did what I had to do, preparing dinner with a heavy heart, probing Cole about school as the shadows deepened, and folding clothes late into the night, each crease a reminder of the weight I carried. As I replayed the events of that fateful afternoon in my mind, a tremor coursed through my hands, relentless and unyielding. His hands lingered. The weight of his presence hung in the air, and the tension coursing through me only deepened my thoughts of him. A wave of guilt washed over me, a heavy burden that I couldn't shake off. It stung deeply that I had allowed blurred emotions to take root during such a vulnerable moment. Grant remained blissfully unaware of the unsettling undercurrents swirling around him. He stumbled through the door, his face etched with exhaustion and his tie hanging loosely, a silent testament to the long, grueling hours he had endured. Out of habit, he pressed his lips to my cheek, a fleeting touch that echoed with the ghost of the love it once carried. Has the day stretched on endlessly? I requested to initiate a conversation. With a low grunt and a curt nod, he turned and strode toward the living room, the air thick with unspoken words. The expected course of action. His presence struck me like a shadow, leaving me feeling like a mere whisper, unseen and forgotten once more. That night, as Grant's rhythmic snoring filled the air beside me, I lay wide awake, my gaze fixed on the ceiling, lost in a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. In the stillness of the house, my thoughts roared like a tempest, drowning out the silence that surrounded me. Cole consumed my thoughts, haunting me relentlessly. His hands trembled, his eyes burned with unspoken words, and the weight of everything that had transpired hung heavily in the air. I had to bring it to a close before it spiraled further, for deep down, I understood it was a mistake. Yet, a shadowed, more isolated fragment of my soul clung to it, yearning for the connection, the gaze, and the profound feeling of being acknowledged. As the days slipped away, Cole remained silent, yet his stillness resonated with an intensity that overshadowed any spoken words. He couldn't bring himself to stay away from me. Instead, he lingered ever closer. He would linger in the shadows, his gaze fixed on me as I cooked, cleaned, or sat alone in the stillness of the night. I allowed it to unfold. I let him go, just as I let myself slip away. The following weekend descended into an oppressive heat, the house suffocating as if it were engulfed in flames. He had vanished once more, swept away by the demands of yet another last-minute shift. Once more, it was only Cole and me, the air thick with unspoken words. I questioned him, wondering if he truly felt comfortable returning to the beach alone. I'm at a loss as to why I even mentioned it. I once believed that stepping outside would grant me the clarity I desperately sought. I found myself contemplating a challenge, a desperate urge to see just how far I could distance myself from it all. The drive was enveloped in an unsettling silence. Cole chose to ignore the whispers that surrounded him this time. He sat in silence, his gaze fixed on the window, while his knee trembled restlessly, a storm of unspoken thoughts swirling within him. I struggled to find the words, desperate to speak, yet they remained trapped within me, refusing to escape no matter how fiercely I fought against the silence. The beach lay eerily desolate as we arrived, a haunting silence enveloping the scene. The water shimmered in a vivid blue, while the wind whipped against my face, stirring a sense of anticipation within me. Once more, we unfurled the towels and Cole stepped in, lending his hand as we prepared for what lay ahead. This time, I found myself paralyzed, unable to utter the words that could protect him from the sun's relentless grasp. I shut my eyes and sank down, pretending that all was well, yet his gaze lingered, heavy and unyielding. He definitely saw me, no doubt about it. As the afternoon wore on, the tension reached its breaking point. We decided to use the beach showers to wash away the remnants of our day before we left. What was supposed to be a simple task to rid myself of the sand quickly spiraled into an inexplicable event that continues to haunt me. Cole was the first to plunge beneath the water, allowing it to cascade down his back, each droplet a whisper of anticipation. I lingered in the shadows, observing him intently, my heart racing as I prepared to intervene. In a moment of reckless abandon, I shed my clothes and stepped into the cool water beside him, feeling the liquid embrace my skin, a rush of uncertainty coursing through me. Cole's gaze pierced through me, filled with an unexpected intensity. His expression was a labyrinth of uncertainty, each flicker of emotion a puzzle that eluded understanding. It might be a shocking revelation, a lingering uncertainty, or perhaps something entirely different lurking in the shadows. Silence hung in the air, heavy and suffocating, as he remained utterly still, his lips sealed tight. As our gazes locked for a fleeting moment, I whispered, "Make sure you rinse your hair well. The salt can really dry it out." In that moment, uncertainty gripped me, leaving me questioning the very words that escaped my lips. Perhaps I was attempting to prove to myself that I held the reins, that I could bring everything to a halt. Or maybe I was testing him, pushing boundaries, or simply gauging my own strength. He hesitated, a storm of emotions swirling within him, before finally succumbing to the moment and stepping under the full stream of water, wordless and unsure. We stood alone, the rain pouring down around us, each drop amplifying the weight of the moment. With a hesitant voice, I implored, "Can you help hand me my towel? I left it over there." Indeed, he did. Once again, he approached with a deliberate caution in his touch. The air was thick with unspoken tension between us. Time froze as he reached for the towel, our hands brushing briefly, an electric jolt coursing through me. The air hung heavy, suffocating, while the relentless roar of the water drowned out all other sounds, enveloping everything in an oppressive silence. Perhaps there was a chance for me to escape. I held the fate of it all in my hands, the weight of that decision pressing down on me. Instead, I turned away from him and dried myself quickly, trying to shut out the confusion that swirled around me. He stood there, silent, as I mumbled something about needing to head home soon, and what unfolded next is a struggle for me to articulate completely. I refused to do that. It was a whirlwind of desperation, isolation, and an unnameable yearning that clawed at my very soul. It was anything but soft. It was anything but slow. It was a brutal clash, filled with despair, and fundamentally flawed in every conceivable manner. Despite my desperate desire to halt, an invisible force held me captive, rendering me powerless. I never intended to. Once it had ended, we remained frozen beneath the relentless downpour, the water cascading over us, erasing every trace visible to the eye, yet leaving the deeper truth untouched. He embraced me, gripping me tightly as if he were afraid to let go, a warmth that had been absent for far too long. But that embrace was nothing more than a human instinct. Two lonely people standing beneath water, both craving comfort, both unsure of what anything meant anymore. In the aftermath, silence enveloped us, heavy and unyielding. After a heavy silence enveloped us on the walk back to the car, we hastily dried off, packed our belongings, and departed, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. A fleeting glance at Cole revealed his crimson lips, a stark contrast to the rigidity of his movements, igniting a surge of unease within me. In that moment, the weight of my mistakes crashed down on me, a suffocating realization that I had shattered everything I held dear. I was convinced that we had ventured into a territory that was irrevocably forbidden. Yet, in that moment, a surge of vitality coursed through me, awakening feelings I thought had long been buried. The ride home in the car was steeped in an unsettling silence. The atmosphere inside the car was thick and oppressive, as if the very air conspired to crush us beneath its weight. Though my gaze was fixed on the road ahead and my grip tightened around the steering wheel, my thoughts surged uncontrollably, a tempest of anxiety and urgency. I could still sense him, the weight of the moment, his hands, and the intensity of being there. My gaze was irresistibly drawn to him in the passenger seat, an unspoken intensity hanging in the air. He remained motionless, his gaze fixed on the window, as if searching for answers in the shadows beyond. His face flushed crimson, and his lips pressed into a thin line, revealing the depths of his turmoil. Suddenly, without warning, his voice broke the silence. "Mom," he whispered, his voice barely above a breath, filled with uncertainty. I averted my gaze, unable to face him. I was paralyzed with fear, yet his voice pierced through the silence, echoing in my mind. "What is happening? What on earth did you just do back there?" My heart raced with urgency. A fleeting thought crossed my mind to pretend I hadn't heard him, to shift the conversation or simply brush it aside. But deep down, I knew that denial wouldn't change a thing, especially after everything we had shared. With a tremor in my voice, I confessed to them, "I don't know." It was true, or at least as close to the truth as I could possibly grasp. It was a struggle to unravel the mystery of what had transpired and the reasons behind it. All I understood was that nothing would ever be the same again. The silence lingered, heavy and oppressive, as we finally arrived in the driveway. The engine fell silent as I came to a halt, yet an invisible force held us both in place, frozen in that charged moment. Cole's gaze pierced through me, intense and unwavering. A chilling fear gripped me as I gazed into his eyes. It was neither shame nor guilt, nor was it uncertainty that gripped the heart. It was a desperate longing. "For how long have these feelings consumed you?" His question sent a chill down my spine. The very same question had been haunting my thoughts. As I gazed into his eyes, a tumultuous wave surged within me, shattering the calm facade I had maintained. "I'm filled with uncertainty," I whispered, my voice barely breaking the silence. "Perhaps the uncertainty lingers, casting shadows over what lies ahead." I may have spoken for longer than I intended. We lingered in the shadows, the unspoken words hanging heavily between us, suffocating the silence. I thought that was the final chapter. We were on the brink of stepping inside, ready to erase it all from our minds, pretending it had never occurred. Yet, Cole's mind was racing with a different vision. Just as I reached for the doorknob, he reached out and stopped me gently, his eyes filled with questions he couldn't voice. It began with uncertainty. He stepped closer, hesitated, but didn't speak. I froze, not knowing what to say. I truly didn't, though. I stepped back and opened the door instead, letting the moment pass like a breeze I chose not to feel. At that moment, everything unraveled. It was the crushing weight of solitude, the years of neglect, or the way Cole's gaze pierced through the darkness, igniting a flicker of warmth that had long been extinguished. I stood there, paralyzed, unable to resist whatever force was bearing down on me. He drew me in just outside our home, but I stopped and said softly, "We should talk another time." "Not now." For the first time, in what felt like an eternity, a surge of life coursed through me. Desperately required. Witnessed. Nothing else held any significance. Time blurred as we remained trapped in that space, but ultimately, we crossed the threshold together. I can't recall how I reached the door, only the electric sensation of his hand gripping mine and the heavy silence that enveloped us. As they stepped inside, The atmosphere thickened, and the situation spiraled into chaos. It felt as if we had been trapped in a suffocating silence, and at last, the dam broke, unleashing everything we had kept buried within. The dam had shattered, unleashing chaos and despair. From that moment on, the days turned ominously gray. Cole lingered near me, his gaze piercing through the silence, seeking any excuse to bridge the distance between us with a touch or a lingering look when the world faded away. I repeatedly urged myself to break free from this torment, yet each time my gaze fell upon him, I was met with the haunting reflection of the emptiness that consumed me. We were reflections of one another, each echoing the intensity of our longing, and I found myself powerless to resist. I never intended to. As I lay in bed beside Grant, my gaze fixed on the ceiling, the rhythmic sound of his steady breathing filled the silence, wrapping the room in an unspoken tension. My mind was consumed by thoughts of Cole. His presence lingered in my thoughts, confusing and unresolved, stirring a storm I didn't know how to calm. Though my guilt coiled within me like a venomous serpent, it failed to restrain my resolve. I was acutely aware of the wrongness, the inevitable unraveling that awaited, yet the magnetic pull held me captive, refusing to let go. The situation between us deteriorated further until it reached a point of silence. As I stood at the kitchen sink, the water running over the dishes, I tried to drown out the chaos in my mind. Grant was working late, and Sophie was lost in her dreams, leaving me alone with my thoughts, each clink of the plates echoing the tension in the air. Cole loomed just behind me. His gaze pierced through me, reminiscent of that moment at the beach when I dared to turn around. I whispered to Cole, my voice laced with urgency, "Be careful." Yet, he stood his ground, refusing to flee. He drew so near that I could sense the warmth of his breath against my skin. "Mom," he said, voice trembling, "I feel like I don't know how to act around you anymore." A chill swept through me. My heart raced violently, threatening to shatter within my chest. I urged him to stay put, retreat to his room, and let me be. Regret lingers in the air. I spoke those words, and now they haunt me. I find myself unable to break free. That's when everything shattered. Cole stepped away, overwhelmed, his eyes glassy. I turned back to the sink, pretending I hadn't seen it. This time, the struggle is more intense, a desperate necessity. I struggled with my thoughts, desperate to rebuild a boundary I never should have allowed to blur. I let the memories of Grant, Sophie, and the life we built together slip away into the shadows of my mind. Everything revolved around Cole, the one person who, in a strange moment of loneliness, made me feel seen. Everything has shifted since that fateful day at the beach. I fear it may never come to pass. Cole and I shattered a rule, a choice that can never be undone. The shame lingers, a constant ache that cuts deep. Yet it fails to hold me back. That is the very thought that haunts me the most. Every day, I gaze at Grant and Sophie, consumed by the unsettling thought that they remain blissfully unaware. They remain oblivious to the fractures within our family. Perhaps they are consumed by their own lives, or maybe I've simply mastered the art of concealment. I can feel it slipping away, the fleeting nature of this moment haunting me. Secrets have a way of revealing themselves, often when least expected. When the moment arrives, everything will shatter. I have attempted to bring it all to a close. I tried to convince myself it was a mistake, that Cole and I both deserved more, yet every time his fingers brush against my skin or his gaze locks onto mine, I find myself unraveling, yearning for clarity in the confusion of it all. For the first time in years, he has ignited a fire within me that I thought had long been extinguished. Perhaps for all eternity. I must confront that harsh reality. This is shattered, and I'm at a loss for how to mend it. I'm filled with doubt about whether I can truly accomplish this. This is precisely why I must share this story. I yearn for the moment when someone finally uncovers the truth, a revelation that has eluded my thoughts until now. I beg you, find a way to pull me from this chaos before the clock runs out. Please reach out if you can offer any assistance, or if you know someone who has faced a similar struggle. Consider this a stark warning. In solitude, one can journey to realms previously unimagined. Don't allow it to consume your existence as it once did mine. Don't let the chaos unfold before you grasp the reality of the situation. Once you step over that threshold, there's no turning back. Thank you for listening to me. Please don't hold back. Your ideas could change everything. If this video resonated with you, show your support by liking it and follow for more powerful content. I crave the sensation of not being alone in this vast, overwhelming world. The most profound betrayals often lie within ourselves, hidden in the shadows of our own choices. Each of us inflicts these burdens upon ourselves.